Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ari, and today we're going to have some more stories about our toxic life. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video, if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now without further ado, let's go. Today's first story. In this story, OP met his wife in college and was instantly drawn to her, admiring her looks, personality, and their intense sexual connection. She confessed love first, and they discussed marriage and family. Her hypersexuality, later diagnosed as a disorder, strained him. Despite therapy and efforts to manage it, he discovered her infidelity with her therapist and online strangers. Now let's get into the story. I met my wife in college and instantly knew that I wanted to be with her for the rest of my life. Aside from the usual stuff like thinking she was cute and fun to be around, she was incredible in bed. I know that sounds like the most shallow, worst reason to want to marry someone, but it was something else. She was everything that I ever wanted, and falling for her wasn't hard. She was actually the first one to say "I love you" in our relationship, and ever since then, we had been discussing marriage and starting a family together. Her intimate drive has always been abnormal to me. Don't get me wrong, when I was younger and in college, I absolutely loved it. We would sleep together sometimes 5 times a day because she simply couldn't get enough. It only continued the longer we were together. Normally, you would expect something like that to slow down a bit as you settle into a relationship. It just never died with her. I know that a lot of our friends were envious of our relationship in that respect, but it was exhausting. It actually hit a point where I started to worry that there was something deeper going on. If we weren't having intimate, she was thinking about it. She was texting me about it. It was constant. She ended up going to a therapist, and they told her that she had a hypersexual disorder, which, if you don't know what that means, is what people used to call an infomania. It honestly explains so much about her libido, and finally hearing that from a professional rationalized a lot of the more negative feelings I had about it. The therapist told her that for the most part, it was manageable, though it could sometimes lead to sexual addictions. She just joked about it at first, telling me that she was an intimate addict and there was nothing she could do about it. If that was the case, I genuinely wanted to help her. Addiction is hard to deal with, no matter what kind it is. I sat her down one day, and we had a long talk about all of it. I told her that I thought it would be good if there were some changes and that I was worried about her. In the end, we decided that we wouldn't sleep together for a week and we would see how she was doing at the end of it. She had a hard time during the week. I think it confirmed a lot of the suspicions that I had that her actions were bordering on an addiction, but from what I could tell, she ended up getting through it. At the end of the week, she was just excited to be with me. She was in therapy around the same time, so I knew I wasn't trying to control her behavior or anything. On top of therapy, I helped to orchestrate somewhat of a schedule for having intimate. That way we could make sure it wasn't something she was constantly getting to help discourage the addictive behavior. Everything was going well for about 3 months. I thought that she was recovering from everything, and it felt like we were in a good place with our relationship. While she was at therapy one day, I was doing a little bit of work around the house and I heard some notifications going off on her computer. She normally didn't leave it on, so it was a little weird. But I didn't think much of it. The notifications just kept going off though. After about 10 minutes of that, I was getting annoyed. So I went to shut her laptop so I wouldn't hear the noise anymore. While I was looking at her screen, I caught a glimpse of the messages. They were Discord messages in an NSFW Discord channel that were all extremely sexual. She posted a picture in one of the channels, and all of the notifications I heard were pains being sent to her. When I looked at the picture, my heart broke into a million pieces. It was an explicit picture of her giving head to another guy. There were a bunch of people commenting on it saying things like "I wish that was me," and she was role-playing openly with all of these random people. I searched her name on the server to try and figure out what exactly was going on there. She had uploaded several pictures, all with the same man. In one of them, she added a comment about how she seduced her therapist. I had never met her therapist, so I wasn't 100% positive that it was actually him. If it was, there was a huge moral and ethical violation there. Right away, I looked up her therapist to see if it looked like the guy in the pictures. It did. She had been sleeping with her therapist all these times. She told me she was going to work on her recovery. The more I looked at her computer, the more evidence I found that she never took anything I said seriously. There were countless private chats with people from that server where they were role-playing and exchanging pictures. She had been using Omegle to chat with strangers, and no doubt do sexual things online with them. I had no idea her problems ran as deep as they did. I didn't know if these chats and messages started before I talked to her about her possible addiction or after. Regardless, it was unacceptable. There was so much for me to go through that I must have been sitting at her desk for hours. She actually came home while I was looking. She found me in front of her computer and saw what I was looking at. I told her that I wanted her out, and there was nothing she could do to sway my mind about that. She just tried to blame her actions on her hypersexual disorder. I thought it was complete bull. I kicked her out of the house for the night and immediately started trying to figure out what to do about her therapist. I looked over a credit card statement to see if he was still being paid by us. As it turned out, he was. The man went to school for many years to be a therapist and was dumb enough to sleep with a patient while still being paid by them. If he had any brains, he would have at least terminated her as a client first. It wasn't clear if I would have any grounds to sue him because he was sleeping with my wife, but I could at least get his practice closed down after filing a complaint. So of course, I did that. I reported him to all of the proper channels that I found online. I also called the office and spoke to one of the management staff about it. On top of all of that, he was married. I was certain that after losing his practice and potentially his license, his wife would find out about what he did and hopefully she would leave him. As for my wife, I didn't care if she still needed help with her recovery at that point. She made a conscious decision to cheat on me and undermine her vows, so I had no choice but to leave her. Genuinely, I hope she gets help. She is somebody that I've had a lot of love for, and I don't want to see her hurting in any way, but I can't be a part of her life if that's how she's going to behave. We finalized the divorce, and I ended up selling the house that we lived in because I couldn't stand knowing that something could have happened there that I didn't know about. Today's second story. In this story, OP and their fiancé met through mutual friends and connected instantly. Despite her rigid wedding planning, he was excited about their future together. However, they discovered she had cheated during her bachelorette party via video. He ended the relationship, canceled the wedding, and publicly revealed her infidelity. Now let's get into the story. My fiancé and I both met a couple of years ago through some mutual friends. One of my coworkers thought that we would hit it off, so she invited both of us along to a concert, sort of like a blind date. I was originally hesitant to go, but after meeting her, I was glad I did. She seemed like the perfect girl for me. We had a lot in common, specifically with our music taste, which was a big deal for me. I thought she was beautiful and funny, and almost as soon as I met her, I could see myself spending my life with her. It didn't take long for me to be able to see myself in the mirror. For me to pop the question, "When you know," she said yes, and I thought we were going to live a happy little life together. As enamored as I was with her, I would be remiss not to mention that she turned into a bit of a bridezilla when she started planning the wedding. Everything had to be a certain way, because she was one of the girls who had dreamed of her big day all her life. I could have been married in a shack in the desert, and I wouldn't have cared. I gave her full reins to plan everything, and I told her to come to me if she needed help with anything. My best friend took over planning my bachelor party almost as soon as I told him I was getting married. He had always been a bit of a party guy, and he wanted to go all out for me. I knew that he was going to want to hire dancers, get completely trashed, and have a night that none of us would ever remember. My fiancée put her foot down about that. She was adamant with me about not having any dancers or anything like that at the party. Honestly, I didn't really care. I could have taken or left a bachelor party altogether, so I wasn't even the most disappointed with that news. However, it didn't annoy me that she wasn't holding herself to that same standard. I caught a glimpse of the bachelor party plans for her maid of honor, and I saw that they were going to a male strip club. I was confident in our relationship, so I didn't think anything was going to happen. But just to poke a little fun at them, I was commenting on the double standard she was setting for our parties. All of the girls made it seem like for them, it was just harmless fun. But for men going to a strip club for a bachelor party, there was a lot of risk that they would cheat. I didn't understand why they would think that in regard to me in particular. I had barely even looked at another woman since I met my fiancée. I didn't want to argue about it, so I dropped it. The weekend of our parties came along, and both of us were very excited. We said goodbye, and I completely thought that I would be returning the following Monday, ready to walk down the aisle. The first night of my party was great. My friends and I all got pretty drunk, and we went back to the hotel room in the early hours of the morning to crash. Nothing crazy happened, but we had a wonderful time. The following morning, I was scrolling through my phone, like I do all the time when I was trying to avoid getting out of bed. I opened Instagram and scrolled through my feed. As I was scrolling, I saw a video someone posted as a joke from an account I didn't recognize. It was a busy nightclub with both male and female dancers. The crowd was pretty rowdy, but I recognized that my wife was there with her bachelorette party. The comment on the video was, "Someone come and get your wifey." I watched the video, not expecting anything to happen that would potentially ruin our relationship. As it progressed, my fiancé climbed on one of the dancers' laps and straddled him before kissing him. Right away, I looked through the other posts on the account to try and see if I could catch a glimpse of him. Anything else happening, but there was nothing. I knew it was a long shot, but I reached out to the person who made the post and told them it was my fiancé and asked if they saw anything else. It didn't take long for the man whose account it was to reach back out. He was a bartender at the club, and he said he saw things like that all the time. He apologized and told me that the dancer she kissed told him that they hopped up in the bathroom. I knew right away that it was over with her and me. I wasn't going to be with a cheater. It was my credit card on file at the hotel my girlfriend was staying at. I was the one paying for our wedding and honeymoon, so I called and canceled the card. She wasn't going to be using my money to find ways to cheat on me anymore. I shared the post that I found on my Instagram story and Facebook page announcing my breakup with my fiancée before I even spoke to her. People were commenting and asking what happened, and I told them all the truth. She was a cheater. Funnily enough, the first message I got from my fiancée was about how the card declined at the hotel bar. She hadn't seen the posts yet to understand why. I didn't respond, but it didn't take long before she saw the post and called me dozens of times, leaving long voicemails and walls of text messages telling me I was wrong about whatever I thought she did. I sent her the messages and said that I didn't care. I then sent her the confirmation of the venue for the wedding being canceled to further drive the nail into the coffin for her. She continuously told me that I humiliated her in front of all of her friends and family and that I was wrong for doing that. I just told her that she shouldn't have slept with someone else if she didn't want to deal with the consequences of it. She did eventually confess to sleeping with the man from the club. She told me that it was just something she did to get it out of her system before being married. I thought that was such a Bobby's excuse that I just hung up the phone. I will never understand why people think that a bachelor party is an excuse to act like a single person. You're still engaged and you're still planning on getting married, so you should act like you're in a relationship. When I eventually got back home, she was begging me not to leave her. Her dream wedding was right around the corner, and she didn't want to lose that. When she told me that, I realized where her priorities were, and I felt very good about ending our relationship. As for the man she slept with, I was pretty upset that someone would sleep with a woman they knew was engaged. I contacted the management of the club he worked for, and they said that sleeping with customers was a strict violation of their values, so he would be terminated. Today's third story. In this story, OP met his girlfriend at a comedy club where he pursued stand-up. She worked there and later became a talent agent. After a few years together, she started managing a comedian. He discovered her affair with the comedian during a surprise visit, confronted them publicly, and exposed the affair to her employer, leading to her losing her job. Now, let's get into the story. My girlfriend and I have been together for almost 4 years. When I met her, I visited a local comedy club every week to try and participate in their open mic night. I had always enjoyed stand-up comedy, and being a comedian was a dream of mine. That didn't exactly pan out for me, but I met a lot of great friends and my girlfriend. She was an employee at the club. She was in college at the time, and she wanted to be a talent agent, so she thought she could make some good connections there. When she graduated, she landed a pretty good job at a local talent agency. She was working as a scout to bring in new talent. I ended up giving up on my comedy career, and I got a big promotion at my day job. I didn't have the time to go to open mic nights or work on my jokes, so it fell to the back burner. I still do love comedy, and I visit my friends at the club, but that's about it. My girlfriend and I continued seeing each other for a couple of years before she got a big break at the agency. We were living together at the time, and everything was going smoothly. She was somebody that I saw a future with, and I was ready to buy a ring and propose. However, whenever we would talk about marriage and starting a family, she would tell me that she didn't want any of that until she was at least 30. My girlfriend was working as a tour manager for a new comedian that the agency was representing. I won't say who it was, but they were on America's Got Talent, and they garnered a lot of attention very quickly. The comedian didn't get very far in the competition, but they gained a significant fan base from the time they were there. We had a long conversation before she accepted the job, just so she could make sure I was okay with it. The position would have her on the road frequently, and she was worried it would impact our relationship. I didn't want to hold her back in any way, so I told her to go for it. It was what she wanted to do, and I trusted her, so there was no reason for me to not want her to go. I met the comedian a few times. He and my wife had grown close from the time they spent together. When they first began working together, he was a newlywed. Over the years, he and his wife tried to have a baby. My girlfriend had been working with him for about 2 years when everything hit the fan. I had never suspected that they had anything more than a professional relationship with each other. The comedian landed a 3-month-long tour across the country. All of the shows were in pretty quick succession of each other, so when they were performing, they were on the road. I said goodbye to my girlfriend, not expecting to see her again until it was all over. A couple of weeks into the tour, I was curious, so I checked the schedule and saw that they were going to be in a nearby city, so I could surprise my girlfriend by attending a show. I saw that there was one about an hour waiting, so I bought tickets and booked a hotel room for us. When the weekend of the show came, I made my way to the club. I was standing outside in the line, waiting for my turn to get in. At one point, I was waiting in the line, waiting for my turn to get in. I was standing next to a narrow alleyway with a few people hanging out in it. They were all laughing and smoking, so I kind of assumed that they were employees of the club. I looked down the alleyway, and I noticed my girlfriend right away. I tried to look away and not make myself obvious because I was there to surprise her, but then I heard her giggling and it got my attention. It sounded a little flirtatious. I looked back. I saw the comedian she was managing pinning her to the wall and kissing her while her arms were wrapped around him. It was a very comfortable kiss. It definitely wasn't the first time it happened. When they finally pulled away, he made a joke about how that was his good luck charm. Somebody opened the door and called them in before I could see anything else. I didn't know what to do. I continued walking in the line, almost like a zombie. I was in shock and completely stuck in my head. I needed to know if they had ever done anything more than kissing. The kiss was already not okay, but I needed to know if there was something more going on, especially considering that the comedian had a new baby at home. While I was in the line, my girlfriend spotted me. She rushed over to me and asked me what I was doing there. I told her that I was there to surprise her, and she brought me back to the green room. I had to smile and laugh with both of them while knowing that there could potentially be something going on with them. His set time finally came, and my girlfriend went out after him to record his performance. She told me to stay behind in the green room because she was going to come and check in on me during the show. I didn't feel like watching his performance, so it was okay with me. I noticed that she left her purse behind when she left. I was alone in the green room, so I took the liberty of going through it. Inside her bag, I found an entire box of condoms. When I opened it, I saw there were only a couple left. She and I had been together for years, and I knew she was on the pill, so we didn't use condoms. I knew they had to be for someone else. That pretty much solidified it for me. She was obviously sleeping with someone, and from what I saw, it wasn't too far a leap to confirm that it was the comedian. I stormed out of the green room, which happened to be right behind the stage, so everybody in the audience saw the door slam open before I rushed out of it. My girlfriend caught up to me and asked me what was wrong. I replied telling her that I knew she was sleeping with the comedian, gesturing to him on stage. Of course, people started pulling out their phones and recording our little altercation. The comedian was trying to rein everybody back and to pay attention to him while we were fighting, but it wasn't working. I yelled at him while he was on stage too, but he didn't say anything. My girlfriend tried to tell me that I was wrong, but I told her that I saw her kissing him in the alley and I found the condoms in her purse. She didn't have anything to say about that. I went home as soon as I could after the arguments and tried to figure out what I wanted to do moving forward. Obviously, I wasn't going to be with her any longer. Our argument was no doubt humiliating for her at the time, but I wanted to do even more. I ended up calling the agency that she worked for and telling them that she was sleeping with one of their clients. I didn't know their employee conduct rules, but I imagine it was probably frowned upon. They told me that they would handle it from there. Some people shared the videos of the altercation online, and it seemed to have gotten back to the comedian's wife. From everything I could tell, they ended up getting a divorce. I can only hope it was because he was cheating on her and she found out. My girlfriend was let go from her job at the agency, and a lot of the clients she was managing were given to other agents. I knew she was disappointed with that, but that was just karma getting back at her in the end. I keep finding myself looking back at our relationship and trying to pinpoint if there were any signs before I caught her, but I don't think there were. To this day, I still don't know how long their affair lasted, but it must have been a while.